Hello and welcome. This is Jason Baker with the Google Cloud Platform. I'm a Google Cloud trainer, and this is Architecting Google Cloud Platform Design and Process. So first, welcome to the course. And in this case, this is an online recording, so you're probably parked at home and you know where the facilities and food are, so we're going to go ahead and move forward. Now, this is already a pre-recorded lesson, so please don't re-record it. And if you have to ask questions, we do have feedback mechanisms here online. So looking at the cloud infrastructure track, you should have probably already taken the Google Cloud Platform Fundamentals and also the 3-day in-person or online Coursera version of Architecting Google Cloud Platform Infrastructure. Now with that, that's where we introduce all of the major components of the Google Cloud Platform and how do the Lego blocks work together. Now a lot of the feedback is people want to see, well, how do I make designs out of this? How can I make a full stack application? Very difficult to do in 3 days, which is why we have this particular class. This is the one where we're going to show you from start to finish, how do we start one application and scale it up utilizing a design and process that follows the best practices that Google has come together to share. So in this case, the objectives are to improve and create GCP design skills. We're going to also process knowledge and skills and prepare you to continually learn by exposing you to concepts and models. Now, Google's been around for, I think, almost 19 years now, and there's a lot that we picked up in this period of time. So we're going to be peppering different SRE or site reliability engineering best practices within this design and process, while also teaching you a little bit more about the individual services that we have to offer. We're also going to focus and introduce Deployment Manager as a cloud architect tool. It's very difficult to simply do lectures on this because it's pretty much a template and design. So really a lot of the design has to be established first, then you'll be creating templates that will automate that deployment process. So we felt that this is going to be a much better hands-on experience through labs, which are also going to be scattered out as we start to introduce different processes and new design skills throughout this lesson. So the audience prerequisites. This is very important because some people may find this a little bit more advanced. So in this case, if you're a solutions architect, site reliability engineer, if you're a DevOps operations professional, this is really going to appeal for you, especially individuals that are using Google Cloud Platform to create new solutions. If you want to integrate existing applications, other cloud platforms, or just simply get started developing applications on Google Cloud. Now, there are some prerequisites. We really do recommend that you've taken the architecture infrastructure class, or you have a good amount of experience, and this is going to come pretty easy for you. Working with Linux, pretty much everything here is Linux, our Google Cloud Shell, and so some basic proficiency and comfortability with that. Also systems operations experience. So if you've deployed and managed production servers and deployed applications either on-premise or on the public cloud, that would also be very helpful because this is what we're really focusing on, is how to adapt from those environments to the Google Cloud Platform. So looking at the agenda, we're going to have 8 different modules that we'll be covering, from defining the service, what is that exact process, and then creating that business logic layer. I mean, this can all be done on paper before we ever even actually start to deploy actual resources. Identifying the data layer and the presentation layer. So a lot of this is just simply planning, thinking about business logic, and identifying what services we may utilize. Then, as we start to either virtually or actually break it, depending if we've deployed or not, we're going to start to build it stronger, designing for resiliency, scalability, disaster recovery. Then let's also think about security. So hopefully we're not putting something in production without taking this design practice in place. In fact, we may have to move that earlier, but it's a little difficult to understand security until you've identified all the other key components. And then finally, capacity planning, cost optimization. How much will this design cost? May not even get off the ground if we cannot develop a budget that's acceptable. And then finally, deployment, monitoring, and alerting, and incident response. This is key because we want to create an automated deployment. We want to have an established monitoring and alerting playbook so we understand exactly how we will respond to incidences. And of course, stabilization, right? Once the product is in production, we don't just rid ourselves and say, all right, some other team handles it. We really need to see how stable it is. That's why you'll see, like Google, for example, will run products in beta for long periods of time before they're officially GA'd, because we need to get that real world experience that just cannot be created in a simulated environment. So a quick introduction. My name is Jason Baker. I'm a Google Cloud Platform trainer. You can find me on LinkedIn or other publications. I've also done some of the other Coursera courses on the GCP architecture. That's pretty much it. I've been working at Google now for almost about 3 years. I actually started as a Unix engineer for a hosting company that I started, which was acquired multiple times, and so I had about 12 years of hands-on experience. I've also worked in the enterprise as a technical operations manager at Nike, pre-sales engineer, converted over to sales, or the dark side, we like to say, kind of selling hardware solutions in both storage and server and enterprise platforms. Worked at HP for 6.5 years, and worked for a cloud company called Druva, including right before I moved over to Google. And so I've got a lot of experience, building things from scratch, and now hopefully I can share some of my tidbits when we go through actual design and process in a much easier world called the Google Cloud Platform. So what do you want to expect? So there's a few components here we focused on. One is the learning, and there's a lot of it. There's going to be a good amount of lecture peppered in with a lot of SRE best practices. But we're going to take this and we're going to actually create a very complex design. We're going to start with something very simple and grow this to full enterprise scale. It builds and builds and builds on top of each other so you can get a really good idea of how we're implementing a lot of these design and processes. Then we're going to challenge you to start thinking of how we're going to handle that as well. So we're not going to give all the answers for you. We give you an opportunity, present you with some of the problems, and these will have to do with how do we log all this data and then kind of apply some of these best practices. Now, throughout the meantime, we're going to break your focus a little bit and focus on automation. And so these labs will all be about deployment manager. So imagine you've created this design and process. You've had some very healthy dialogues with other colleagues. You've understood business logic and broke it down and made something that's going to be truly reliable. Well, to do that accordingly, you've designed the process. Now you need to automate it. And that's what the GCP labs are going to do. You're going to get a lot of hands-on practice here. And of course, you can even use these templates perhaps even for your own production deployments. So there's some further detail here on exactly what you're going to be learning in those labs. Again, these are all going to start to build on each other from just a simple deployment to customizing it to creating more reliable auto scaling and then a full production deployment. So it will kind of build on each other as they go.